Hi, this is Daniel from Ultimate Guitar Academy, and I'm going to teach you how to move bar chords on the guitar so that you can play basically any song and any chord. In order to learn how to move bar chords, you really already need to know the bar chord shapes as well as the notes on the guitar. The bar chord shapes I'm going to focus on are F major, F minor, and then B major and B minor. So if you know those four, fantastic. If not, I recommend practicing them separately, then coming back to this lesson. Like I mentioned, you also need to know the notes on the guitar. So if you don't know those, I recommend practicing them first and then coming back. So each bar chord has something we call a tonic. If we look at the F bar chord shape, it's called F because it starts on an F. F is our tonic, it's our home note for this chord. So the F bar chord shape has an F note here. That is first fret on the low E string. So that note is F. If I build my F bar chord shape, it becomes an F chord. In order to move this to a different chord, I literally just have to move the chord and build it on a different note. So if I move it to here, third fret, this note on the low E string, now third fret, is not an F, it's a G. So if I play that same shape here, starting on a G note, what I have is a G chord. I can move it to 5th fret and build it here on the 5th fret note, that's an A note, so this is an A chord. So I could play F, G, and A. All of those are major chords because this shape is the F major shape. It's not F minor, it's F major. So the location is what determines whether it's the letter A, B, C, D, E, F, G, sharp or flat, and the shape itself will determine whether it's major or minor. Let's go back and have some more examples of moving just the basic major chord. So I was here at A major, 5th fret. If I move it back a fret, I'm now starting on the 4th fret, on the low E, which is an A flat or a G sharp. So this chord here, if I play my F bar chord at 4th fret, this is A flat major or G sharp major. If I move it to 6th fret, which was 1 in front of 5th, 5th was A, so 1 in front is A sharp, or it's known as B flat. If I play that same F major shape here, I have A sharp or B flat major, same thing. So I can move that all the way up on the guitar. Basically, it's just going to follow the letters of the alphabet, or the notes of the alphabet, on the low E string. So that's an E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. So if I play that F bar chord at any of those locations, that's the note. So 8th fret, I really just look at this note, which is 8th fret on the low E string, and 8th fret is a C note, so this chord is a C chord. If I want to make it a minor chord, all I need to do is change the shape from the major shape to the minor shape. So if we think back to the F chord, we have F major, and F minor is when the middle finger is off. If you take your finger off, remember you may as well use it to press down on that bar chord just to get a nice clear bar chord shape. So if I move that to any of those locations, it's still that chord, but now it's a minor chord instead of major. So here at 1st fret it's F, take the middle finger off, it becomes F minor. At 3rd fret it was G, if we take the middle finger off, it's G minor. At 4th fret it was G sharp or A flat, so if I take the middle finger off, it's G sharp minor or A flat minor. If I go to 5th fret it was A, so if I take that middle finger off, it's now A minor. And so on. One of the last examples I used was 8th fret, which is C, so if I take that middle finger off, it becomes C minor. So you'll notice that anywhere I move this shape, it is minor every single time because that shape is always minor. So all of these chords, they're all minor. If I put the middle finger back on, they're all major. Every single one of those locations will be major if I'm using the major chord and minor if I'm using the minor chord shape. Something really important to notice here is that the F shape is always following the notes of the low E string. It never follows the notes of the other strings. The reason for this is that within the F bar chord shape, there's one note which is our tonic, and the tonic is the home note that the whole chord is built on, and that tonic is located at that index finger on the low E. It is located in other places within the shape, but it's not worth getting into that right now. The easiest way to learn this is just to follow the notes of the low E string with that shape and make it major or minor. What I'd recommend doing at this point before moving on is actually going back to some songs that you know and playing them with bar chords. So if you know a song that is just F, G, C, you can play F as a bar chord, G as a bar chord, and then C. And just practice that so you get used to moving that shape, and then maybe introduce a minor chord, for example, A minor. So you could have F, G, A minor, C. And for all of those chords, I'm using the F shape. I just have to make sure I change to the minor version when I get to A minor, because A needs to be minor, not major. And for each of those shapes and chords, I'm simply looking at that low E string note and making sure that it's the tonic for each chord. A really good idea when learning this is actually to forget the whole shape and just play those tonic notes. So you'd play F, G, A, and then C. And get used to that, because that's really what I'm looking at when I'm doing this. I simply put the shape at that location, but really my eyes are only focusing on that tonic note because I just make the shape of that tonic location. It makes it a lot easier that way. So once we're comfortable with that F shape and moving the F shape, that's when it's a good idea to move to the next, which is the B shape. The B shape is going to work pretty much the same way with two differences. It is a different shape, of course, but the B shape follows the notes of the A string. So that's my tonic for the shape. So within this shape, my tonic, the note that I'm building the chord on, is located here with the index finger on the A string. This note's a B note, so this is a B chord. If I move that forward, that's a C note, so this is a C chord. So the location of the tonic is slightly different because it's on a different string, and it's going to follow the notes of the A string this time, not the notes of the low E string, and that's where most people get mixed up. They start following the notes of the low E instead of the A. A really good idea to help you with this is for your B chord, major or minor, it doesn't matter. If it's a B chord, don't hold or even play the low E string, have it dead, so have it not in the chord. So when I'm playing that B chord, I'm muting the low E and making it dead. So you can't even hear it. That is a little tricky to do, but if that's too difficult, the best thing to do is just simply don't hold the low E, have your finger starting underneath that low E string. So we're not playing the low E, which means we can avoid some confusion. This confusion is usually generated from students holding all 6 strings with the bar, and so they think to themselves, hey, this note is in my chord, and they start following the notes of the low E string, but they're playing the B shape, which is wrong. We want to follow the notes of the A string if we're using the B shape. So the A string notes are different. Remember, we're going to get a different pattern. We're going to get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then A again. So if I take that shape and play the B major shape, make sure you notice that it's B major, not F. If I play the B major shape here, then I get a major chord. This is a B, that's a C, that's a D, that's an E, and so on. If I want sharp or flat, I simply sharpen or flatten. So here's my D at 5th fret. If I want flat, I go back a fret. If I want sharp, I'd go forward a fret. And again, we're going to get one chord having 2 names. So for example, D flat is the same as C sharp. Why is that? Well, here's a C, here's a D. This note in the middle is C sharp or D flat, same thing. So our chord will be located in that same place. It's just 2 different names for that same chord, just like it would be 2 different names for that same note. If I want to make these chords minor, I do really the same thing. Instead of using the major shape, I use the minor shape. So for our B shape, this is major, this is minor. So if I want D minor, I go to my D note on the A string, and I could play my major shape or my minor shape here In this case, I want D minor, so I play my minor shape. If I wanted something like B flat minor, I'd go to B flat and make it minor. So whenever you get crazy, long, complicated names, don't be scared by them. The name tells you what to do. If I see a chord that says C sharp minor, I don't get worried. I go to C, I then sharpen, and I play the minor version of a chord at that place. Now I'm on the A string, so I'd use my B shape. So here's a B minor. A great way to help you learn which shape to use is if I'm on the A string, I should be using my A-type chords. So if I go back to open position, here's A major, here's A minor. When I turn them into bar chords, you'll notice they're the same shapes. At least they are for these fingers in front, and my finger acts as a capo or acts as the end of the guitar. So you should be able to see the relationship between A major and B major, and A minor and B minor. So if in doubt, just think back to your open version of that chord and think, am I using the major or minor version, and what one am I using? Am I using the A? If so, I'm following the A string notes. If I'm using the E, I'm following the E string notes. So you'll notice that for E major, that's how I get my F. From E minor, that's how I get my F minor. If that's confusing, just try putting a capo over first fret and then play an E major chord and you've got yourself an F. Or play an E minor chord, you've got yourself an F minor. The same thing works with the B shape, capo 2, play an A shape, it becomes B major. Capo 2, play an A minor shape, it becomes B minor, because the capo is acting as your finger. That's what's barring the chord or the strings for us. So when moving our bar chords around, we basically just move to the right note on one of the strings and then play the right shape at that note. Let's have a look at some examples. One that I really like to get students to play is G sharp minor. We're going to find G sharp minor on both strings. Starting with the low E, we'll find G sharp. So here's E, F, G. Okay, so I've got G. Now I sharpen, and now I make it minor. I'm using the F-type shape because I'm following the low E string. And there's my G sharp minor. So a scary chord name, not so difficult. If I go to the A string and find the same chord, it'll be a different shape, but same chord. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now I sharpen, and now I put my B minor shape here. Why the B minor shape? Because I'm on the A string, and that's a G sharp minor. Again, a complicated name that just tells me what to do. Complicated names really just tell you what to do. It's just more descriptive, similar to how if you're cooking a dish with a long name, chances are there's just more steps involved to create that dish. So if you're having toast with butter, that's easy. Toast and butter, two things. Just like D minor, two things. D, that's minor. But if you've got toast with butter and Vegemite and a side of, I don't know, something, then that's more complicated. Just like with chords, you might have E7 flat 5 sharp 9. It sounds complicated, but it just tells you to play an E7 with a flat 5 and a sharp 9. It's telling you what to do. Let's have a look at some more examples. Let's find just a basic C bar chord. So how do I find a C on the low E? Well, I find a C note, E, F, G, A, B, C. And I want C, which is C major, so I put a major shape. That's my F major shape because I'm on the low E string. Then let's find a C on the A string. Now I have a shortcut for this. Here's a C chord. That note is a C note. So I can just play my chord starting there. I'm playing my B chord because my tonic is on the A string. So that's a C. Easy. If we find another one like E flat, that's a bit trickier. E flat on the low E string. Well, here's a great shortcut. 12th fret is E because open is 12. So I need to flatten that. If that's too confusing, we can count the long way. E, F, G, A, B, C, D. And then D sharp is E flat. Or if that's too confusing, from D, we go up to E and flatten. Either way, we get the same result. So here's my E flat at 11th fret. So I'm going to play the F shape, and it's pretty squishy. Why the F shape? Because my tonic is on the low E string, and when your tonic is on the low E, we use the F shape. So that's my E flat chord. If I go to the A string, I just need to find an E flat on the A string and play the right shape. So A, B, C, D, there's my E, flatten it. Now I'm on the A string, tonic's on the A string, so I use the B shape. I know I'm calling these the F and B shape. Some people will refer to them as the E shape and the A shape. Both are kind of correct. The reason why is you typically learn this as F and this as B, and that's usually when the way most people learn those shapes. However, the shape itself is not really an F or an B. The shape itself really here is an E and here is an A. So the shapes are not really that. The shapes are like the open chord, and we use them to make bar chords. So you can see that even though I call this an F shape, it really comes from an E, and even though I call this a B shape, it comes from an A. Whichever one you want to work with is fine, as long as we get the correct answer. That's the main thing. Let's try to find one more. This time let's find an F sharp minor. So E, F, F sharp. There's my tonic. We want a minor shape. I'm on the low E string, so I start with my F chord, I make it minor. That's F sharp minor. On the A string, we have A, B, C, D, E, F. We sharpen, and now I play a B minor shape. Why the B minor shape? Because I'm on the A string, tonic on the A string. You should be able to see that the better we know our chord shape as well as the notes of the guitar, the easier this is going to become, because it's just combining the two together. If you don't know one of those really well, or if you know neither of them, then this whole process is going to be really difficult. And that's why I recommend stepping back, working on those two things separately, and then coming back to this combination. There are other bar chord shapes, believe it or not. I know these are the main ones that people learn, but there are other shapes. For example, you can take a C chord and turn it into a bar chord. You can take any chord, like a D, and make it a bar chord. There are lots of ways to do this. Basically, we just use the same principles and processes, we just adjust it to the different chord shape. For example, here's a C chord. So my tonic for a C chord is, again, the A string. When I move it up, it becomes a bar chord version of that C shape, but my tonic is still on the A string. So if my tonic is on the A string, I really end up just needing to find the note on the A string. So if I move my C chord to 5th fret, that's my tonic. That's a D note. So this chord is a D chord. If I move it to 7th fret, that's an E note. So this is an E chord. Making this shape a minor chord is really awkward and difficult. Most people don't bother with that. I can do the same thing with my D. When I move it forward, there are actually two different ways to do this. I could look at this as my tonic on the B string. So here that's an E note, so this is an E chord. Or I could look at this as my tonic. They're actually both the tonic. It's just a matter of which one I feel like following at that particular moment. So here's my tonic, that's an E note, so this is an E note. If I want to move it around, I can move it here to an F, or here to a G, or here to a G flat. All I need to really look at is this note or this note. They're both my tonics. It doesn't matter what the other ones are doing, as long as they're correct in relation to the shape, then it should be fine.